Good afternoon, everyone. To begin, I'm going to quote the Argentinian writer Jorge Luis Borges. I have always imagined that paradise will be a kind of library. Here we are on the grand stage of the greatest literature festival in the world, with India producing more books than ever. The country has witnessed a large number of literary festivals. A quick snapshot of the publishing industry. India is the world's most populous nation with 1.43 billion people, a young nation with 500 million people between the age of 5 and 24, and the second biggest English-speaking economy. There are 24,000 publishers operating in India. Publishing industry contributes to employment, generation, and revenue generation, making it one of the largest media-related industries in India. India is ranked as the third largest market in the world of books, print books. Indian print book market will hit 12.1 billion US dollars by 24-25. And this is not my data, it's from the Nielsen India Book Report of 22. The publishing industry has experienced a significant transformation over the last decade due to digital technology, the proliferation of devices, along with the advancement of print-on-demand technology, social media, has revolutionized the way books are created, distributed, and consumed. One of the key drivers was the Amazon Kindle in 2007, which popularized the e-books. The revenue from e-books markets is projected to reach 215 million, was projected to reach 215 million US dollars in 2023 and will be 280 million by 27, with approximately 134 million users. Moreover, audiobooks has also been on the rise, and it's expected by some experts to overtake the popularity of ebooks. Simultaneously, AI is transforming and disrupting the publishing industry as we know it. Welcome to an inspiring dialogue centered around the heartbeat of communities, the library. The Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation reports and counts 46,746 public libraries in India, while the 2014 survey based on the Ministry of Culture indicates a higher number, 54,846 public libraries in our country. The UNESCO Library Manifesto of 2022 underscores the public library's pivotal role as a community's gateway to knowledge, fostering conditions for conducive to a lifetime of learning, independent decision-making, and cultural development for both individuals and social groups. Libraries are not mere repositories of books, but sanctuaries of alchemy where ideas unfold. Today, we're here to talk about community libraries that are the heartbeat of our neighborhood. Sorry, is it on? Yeah. Of our neighborhoods, fostering intellectual camaraderie and a sheer delight that arises from the written word. And hence, I'm delighted to be in conversation, moderating this discussion with some of the leading voices working for the growth of community libraries. Welcome. So I'm going to start with an opening question for all of you all. You know, based on your current practices and drawing from your experiences in diverse facets of the literary and the educational spaces, could you just share some of your experiences, your backgrounds on accessible, inclusive library networks? So just a few opening comments.
Yeah. Well, at the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this platform. Well, one question comes to my mind. Do you know which is the oldest content aggregator institution in the world? It's the library. So that being the case, libraries have mandate to be inclusive spaces which fosters richness of the human experience and promotes, inclusivity and accessibility at all levels. Factoring equity, inclusion, and diversity has been at the heart of the libraries centuries ago. Permit me to say a few words about a quarter and 1.25 century ago, when the visionary Maharaja Sayajji Rao, he promoted the concept of the libraries at that point in time, and also, besides promoting free primary education for everybody, boys and girls, also suggested that there should be a library whose benefit can permeate to every citizen of that state And with the result, 2,560 libraries came up during his time. And also, not only this, this has a cumulative collection of 2,500,000 books. That is a lot. Not only this, believe me, in 1885, he actually promoted community outreach. He set up the first mobile library in 1885, and the number rose to 500. Guess who was pulling these libraries? Camels, elephants, horses, and even donkeys. The smallest library was pulled by the donkey. That was his vision. And since then, as Asad said, we have over around 50,000 public libraries.
I think your mic is cutting off. Just use this one. Guys, in the tech, one of the mics are cutting off, so if you can just check that out. Mine's working. Do you want mine?
We got it.
Sharing is caring, as we say.
Yes. So since then, as Asad said, that there are over 50,000 libraries, and coupled with the special and academic libraries are again around 50,000, where we have 1,168 university libraries, 47,000 college libraries, and about that standalone libraries around 12,000. Cumulatively, they foster open spaces, universal accessibility, which is also being promoted by all the library associations across the world, including the Apex Library Association, IFLA.
Just a little bit about your background,
Yeah, well, I am a librarian by profession, and my role is to promote open access to scholarly communications, and I have been spearheading the open access movement since 1990s, when the concept was floated around the world, and we did take it to the masses that how important it is to publish your stuff in open access using Creative Commons licenses, and also spearheaded the first ever national portal which was dedicated to the nation in 2000. It was the first ever portal, and of course when you do such activities which is unique and first time, and you are putting your feet in untested information communication and technology application in libraries and information centers. And this was a win-win situation for both the organizations, DSIR and us. And they reached out to me one fine morning after we spread the word. We took it to Rio to support where that, if Africa Online was launched, and I sent a proposal that you should help us. But they didn't help us, but the word spread, and that was the biggest victory for us. And we could float this project, and it is running for the past 30 years now. And it's a robust system that is facilitating open and public, open and access and free access to the end user across, breaking all geographical and physical barriers.
Congratulations. Now my mic is not working.
Okay.
It's nice, it's very nice. Your turn.
Okay. Thank you, Asad. As I always start in my own way, so to all of you who are here, Zindabad, Satrangi Salam. Can I hear this from all of you? Zindabad. Zindabad. Satrangi Salam. Satrangi Salam. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with me, and thank you for being with us. And thank you for being with Free Community Library. And thank you for your question, Asad. Making library inclusive for all. Also, little bit of background about our work. If I want to give the background of my work or our work, or library as an inclusive space for all, I have to start with why do we need free community library, or why do we need inclusive library? Yes, for sure, I'm coming to that. Because that's my whole background also. Why? That question, why that we need a library, and that's my whole background also. So I started one free library in my own village, Project Kitape Kotha Koi Community Library, back in 2021. I started this because my father was a school teacher and I had access to books. But all my friends with whom I played in my childhood, they had no access to books. And I can see the difference of having access to books, free access to books, and also not having free access to books. When I was growing up as a queer child and you introduced me as a queer rights activist and my work, huge chunk of work involves there, I was all alone and I was unsafe. The world was cruel. But it was only a library who welcomed me with open heart, and it gave me safe space. For me, the library, which was free in my school, why I'm saying it's free, it was not just restricted to only one library class. The librarian was maybe visionary, who opened the library for the whole day. Of course, we had class, but in a later time, in other schools, the library is not open. But in my school, it was open, and I could be there, and I could escape from all the bully, all the harassment which I faced. And when I see my positionality or location as an individual in margin, it was library who gave me access to books, access to reading. When I read, I became more informed, well aware, and I could start thinking critically. And when I started thinking critically, I could start asking for my rights. And there, I stand as a queer rights activist. So my activism also started, and the location goes back to that free library where I could go and stand. And this is where I started the first library. And the second library I started in Dibrugarh. It's a small town, and in 2023, called Chandrababa Saikyani Feminist Library and Resource Center. The name might be unique for all of you, that a feminist library. Yes, a feminist library, which is inclusive and which welcome everyone. And it talks about right for everyone. And this is my background, and I represent one organization, as you can see my badge here, Free Library Network. And it's a community, or it's a network of librarians, free library from our country, which has the vision together that we need a free public library system in India, and all of us are advocating for it and asking for it. And this is our kind of background, and we are trying to do, and I have my colleague Mridula, and I'll pass it on to you.
Shall I? Yeah, please. Hi, everybody. So I'm part of the Free Libraries Network, of which Rituparna's 2 libraries in Assam are a part. And the 3 libraries in New Delhi and Haryana, 3 total, from which I am speaking, the Community Library Project, we are also a part of the same network. And the most important thing that I can say about me today, in the context of this talk and in the context of my work, is that I'm an activist. So I'm not a professional librarian. I am a professional activist. What that means is I am interested in agitating you. I am here to ask for action from our society around the question of library. And the question of library, we've shared numbers. You shared it in the overall introduction to this talk. We talked a little bit, you did also, Usha, about Maharaja Gaikwad and how many tens of thousands of libraries there are in India. And you know my position on this because we all spoke a little earlier. It really matters that in a country of 1.4 billion people, we have shamefully too few libraries. And of those that we have, that are provided to us through our social agreement to provide libraries, which are our public libraries, they are not free. So the most important thing about my work is that I'm trying to argue with Rituparna and others in the Free Libraries Network for free libraries. And the organization that I'm here representing, the Free Libraries Network, which has the Community Library Project, we actually run free libraries. And they work beautifully. So often in festivals like this, we hear talk of people are not reading. And I'll say that the people in our libraries are reading. They are finding the safe spaces that Rituparna spoke of. And they are living out this paradise. And it's not a paradise maybe of all other kinds of plenty we need in our life, but it is a paradise of equality. So free means equal. Because we're running free libraries, everybody's coming in as equal. And the last thing about background and organization as introduction before we get into the meat of the talk is it matters in India that we argue for these free libraries and bring them into existence because we are in a very unequal and unsafe society. We have millennia-old caste, and then we have gender, class, and all of the other things we're so deeply familiar with. And libraries are so important as paradises because they usher in an exchange of ideas, including the idea of equality. If we have access to the idea of equality, then we could actually find one more means. There are many, there's legislative, and there's many other ways to address inequality, and we're doing that in our society. But we could have libraries as yet another means for people meeting one another and engaging in like the paradise of ideas.
Wonderful. Thank you to our panel for sharing your opening remarks, and congratulations to you all for the wonderful work you're doing. Usha, I'm going to start with you. You know, libraries face a challenge in fostering vibrant spaces through meaningful community engagement. The mere presence of libraries doesn't guarantee, though Mridula has lots of people coming and reading, but I've been to a lot of libraries where people are not coming in. So drawing from your experience, what strategies do you believe are more effective in ensuring that libraries are actively engaging with local communities and creating a sense of ownership and participation?
Yeah, well, actually, making inclusive spaces needs that you share a common thread with the community that you are serving, actually. Now, if I take, I don't work in a community library, but we serve a community where, in IIC. It's not an academic library either. But if you just look at the collection that is in circulation, it is over 70% collection is in circulation. And why is that happening when not much, not more than 20% of the books are in circulation in other libraries? It is because we take our own community on board. Every year we have an open house where all our community members are free to raise any issues, and we see to it that those issues are addressed. We get back to them. We engage with them. We create discussion forums like book discussion, almost 10 to 12 in a month. Drawing expertise from different fields, engaging with different experts and things like that. Even we do we invite poets. With Poetry Society of India, we collaborate with them. We have Meet the Author programs. We have national conclaves that we do on a very important topics that has societal relevance. For instance, we did, which is also one of the initiatives to foster open and free access, is One Nation, One Subscription, which was Government of India announced project, but nothing was happening for 1.5 years. And we did in 2021, we launched this national conclave and presented a report, which is this report. It talks about the framework, and the government submitted it to the government, and the government took the initiative. And I think now, from next year, all the colleges, all the universities, all the small rural colleges will have access to whole reservoir of resources. Somebody pays for it, but to the end user it is free. That is one. Two is also the festivals. Not many festivals happen, and this is one of the important components. Last year we have seen 2023, Ministry of Culture had a library festival where they invited poets, authors, exhibitions, discussions. I was also part of it some way, and also it was rolling out to 250th anniversary of this Rampur Raza Library, which is a national library, part of under Ministry of Culture. Now, and then there have been festivals by National Library Kolkata, which is not as big a movement, but it's a very, very big movement. And I must also say that India International Center also fosters a culture of festival. Every year during October to November, we have 5 to 7 days festival, which starts with presenting a library which is historically, culturally, and material-wise very rich. And last year we presented Connemara Public Library.
Wonderful.
So this is one of the engagements.
You know, I was actually part of the library festival, and I curated and presented a panel there from pages to stages. So I actually had all the Lit Fest people on a panel. And it was very exciting to see what is happening, the way it was done. It was obviously for the public, but there was also a B2B component where they also showed how technology can be leveraged, and obviously from the government-run libraries to others. And it was a very interesting, I mean, the President of India inaugurated that, so that's also a very encouraging thing. And it was at Pragati Maidan, and I think it was quite wonderfully done. So I had a question about that later, which I might come to. Rituparna, as a significant contributor to curriculum development and the network expansion, can you elaborate the key challenges and successes, also successes, that you have encountered in fostering the growth of the free library network? And how do you envision community libraries contributing to the holistic development of individuals, especially in areas with limited access to resources, and especially educational resources?
Okay. That's a long question, of course. And
Short
there are a
answer.
lot of work is around it. But when we talk about holistic human development, how do we understand also? And who is being able to go forward and who is being not able to go forward, and when we say. And when we are talking about community library or making reading accessible to all, or reading or library has contribution to holistic human development, we have to understand this, that historically reading is just captured, I will use the word captured, is by particular group of people who comes from a location of oppressor caste, or maybe who has high class, and it's there. And when we see that that someone is growing also, it's from those particular community only. If we look at the caste hierarchy in our country, in our society, and who holds the power of knowledge. And when we say about the power of knowledge, it comes with the power of reading. And this is where a free library will be able to cultivate and contribute to the human development. And when I look at our constitution, if we look at the constitution values and the preamble, I believe if we can embed all those values and we can go ahead with the rights ensured by our constitution, we can have this development as human, as individual with everyone. And when we see reading, we inculcate reading through free library with our communities to contribute to their development. It's not just the act of reading individually. We believe in collective reading. And when we can foster and nurture collective reading, it's in a library. When we nurture and foster collective reading, we can have discussions, we can have conversations, we can have questions. When we can ask questions, we can think more. And we can think critically. And from there, we can ask for our rights. It's the question of empowerment also of an individual. Mm-hmm. When you are empowered enough to ask the right question, to take stand for yourself, that this is my constitutional rights, which is guaranteed by my constitution. This is where an individual or a person coming for any community with any intersection of social identity can stand up and can go for the human development, which we are talking about. And a library can do it. When we open the door and we say that all are welcome and with love. And when we say with love within our network, coming back to the questions on network also, all our members within the network, we say all are welcome with love. And when we say all are welcome with love, it's just not our sophisticated language, oh, we are welcome. It's not about that. It's about breaking the barrier of caste, religion, class, gender, ability, region, geography, everything. And then making a space which is equal for everyone, or where everyone can grow together. And when we look at our network, it's everyone who is coming together and contributing. And it's not just a happy fact that, oh, you are running a library in a far-flung village in Orissa, or maybe in Tamil Nadu, or maybe in Karnataka, or maybe in Himachal, or maybe in Assam, or maybe in Manipur. It's not just about that you are serving 200 members and you have some 500 books or 2,000 books, but we are saying within the network that we need excellent library. When we say excellent library, it means excellent library, where everyone has access to good books, quality books, and new books for everyone. And where we have open shelves, where everyone can come and access those books equally. And this is what we envision within our network, and this is what we're talking about within the Free Library movement as part of Free Libraries Network. So yeah.
Wonderful. Mridula, I'm just going to continue that trend with you. You look at India's reading habits, it's crucial to acknowledge there's a lack of reading culture overall. So what kind of specific interventions are necessary to cultivate this, especially because there is a whole layer of exclusion that happens, and there's a whole diverse socio-cultural landscape the country deals with. So what are some of the things that one can do or are doing to make sure that we can push it on the right track?
I mean, I am going to sound very single track, but it matters. This track, because it's the one that we're not on. It'd be a waste of time to talk about what's already being talked about. What's already been talked about hasn't worked, which is, paid libraries and bookshops where you have to pay for books. I think there's room in any society for those things. But if you don't provide the basic, and then you provide other things, even like the donkeys and the camels, are like extras. The little free library movement is a very sad movement if there isn't a public library system of which it is an addition. Even our storied and wonderful institutions like India International Center, the Habitat Center, and so on, can only be like sort of symbolic representations of a culture that is thriving. And because ours is not, we have to be single track and talk rather negatively about how we are not thriving. So we're not thriving because we don't have free libraries. So the single track message here is what has worked all over the world where it's been tried. The reading habit is dependent on removing money from the equation because not everybody has money. How about in India? The majority of people don't have money. Not 350 rupees for a book in a bookstore, or 650 or 999. Not 100 rupees to come into any festival. Not lifetime subscription to any major institution. What India needs is a free public library system. Then we would absolutely have a joyful reading culture. So how do I know this? Because I run free libraries. And in our free libraries, we had 40 people when we opened in 2015. And 2 or 3 of those 40 people are sitting here today. So mere saathiyon ko, I'm so happy you're here. I get strength when I see your faces. People who are like 14 years old are 24 years old, and they are librarians. They read, they have beautiful ideas to share with the world. My sathis are people very similar to your story, Rituparna, folks who would not have entered a bookstore and who would not have found safe spaces, who would not have been thriving as readers and contributing to making this a thriving society for all of us who do have access to reading through bookstores. We actually need everyone else to read also because we need a reading culture. Otherwise, books die. So this question of like inclusion and how we do it, we can do it by going door to door, which we do in our library. The 40 people became 600 in 1 year. And this is we're approaching the end of our 9th year, which is to say we're over 9 years, we're in our 10th year now. We're now over 10,000 members in Delhi NCR. We have a collection of 50,000 books, 48,000 and change, but some more in storage getting cataloged and so on. We circulate up to 100,000 books a year. And who comes in are people who cannot come into this festival or to that bookstore. India needs a public library system, autonomous, high standards. Free is the first standard. It's not a weird idea. पूरे दुनिया में free libraries है, हम भी कर लेते हैं.
Wonderful. I mean, we'll talk. I mean, India is not, homogenous in a way. I mean, there are certain states that are doing maybe a better job. We'll come to that a little later.
Kerala is wonderful. That's another reason to feel confident. Yeah. It's been done.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little about Kerala?
They have like one library for every 7, 8, 9,000 people. They have about 9,000 libraries in total. They are protesting right now because they would like to retain their autonomy. And we should all be watching that also. I would like to see Kerala run free libraries. They do charge that minimal amount. But there are a couple of factors. Free is very important because it's not done. We talk about it. The other thing is the standards, the great collections and so on. And then the per capita. So these 40,000, 50,000 numbers, the National Mission on Libraries talked about and that the Rajaram Mohan Roy Library Foundation has on their website, which they themselves say may be half as much, in fact, end up being on a per capita basis about 1 in every 300,000 people has access to a library, and not even a free one. Kerala has at least figured out bringing the numbers down to below 10,000. So Kerala matters as an example, even though they're not quite free. We would like them to be free.
Thank you for that. Usha, libraries are evolving. They're facing expectations, budgetary pressures. They need to demonstrate value. So how do libraries effectively communicate their value to their stakeholders? Because at the end, even if it's a free library, somebody's paying for it. So how do you validate? I'm sorry, it sounds like a terrible question, but how do you make sure that the support is going to be there for all the wonderful work you're doing and continues to grow?
Yeah, this is in terms of, yeah, okay. And now, libraries have an intrinsic value.
Just speak into the mic. There's something wrong with the sound. I think it's the range that's done it.
Now, libraries, they are creating key elements of the libraries now are also creating digital spaces, breaking physical and, geographical barriers. They also have, they are engaging with members and also hosting successful events and making, a lean practice, adopting lean practice to help this. Now, the first thing that they are engaging, because you said that the cost of the publications is going up, there is rise in size and cost both. What has this rise in, it has made, prohibitively difficult for libraries because they have frozen budgets to subscribe to the serials and also, buy only few books because they can't afford. So libraries, one is that libraries have found innovative ways to engage with the users to facilitate them access. One of them is formation of when we were not digital, even then there were institutions who were facilitating centralized acquisition of publications where they could bring the cost down to help users to have that. And even I know of the institution, one of the labs of CSIR who was facilitating getting in those non-digital era to get publications from abroad through the collaborative endeavors with other countries like British Library Documentation Center in UK, Vinity in USSR, CNR in France, and other countries. And they were getting through the local, kind of regular post. Of course, there was a delay. Now, when the networking started, they started having kind of networks, library networks like Developing Library Network and specific subject-oriented networks to facilitate resource sharing, convert their catalogs into online public access catalogs and facilitate resource sharing. Then there was rationalization of resources. If there are 10 libraries in Delhi, then some of them will buy one specific collection, the others will be, so that they could rationalize. And now then the consortium came, and which in the digital era, now most of the libraries, particularly in universities and college, academic libraries and special libraries, they have access to millions of resources. Of course, somebody is paying, government is funding those initiatives, but it is inclusive because it doesn't differentiate between from where you are coming, what is your income. To the end users, it is free. That's how they are engaging with the users.
I'm going to come back to the whole digitization thing. We have only 12 and a half minutes left. I've got a few rounds of questions, and we want to take some audience questions. So, Rituparna, just, your decision of breaking traditional barriers and accessing libraries is evident through your pop-up libraries you've done in spaces, in public spaces, colleges, housing societies. How have these contributed to bridging the gap to access of literature? And how has it helped in increasing this or broadening this culture of reading?
When you asked me about the pop-up library, which we do from our library, it reminded me of what Mridula mentioned about this little free library also. It's just an extension of our existing standard library. And within our network, we always talk about and advocate about the standard library. A pop-up library or a little free library doesn't really serve to the community which we are intending to. It's just one part of the activity in which we are doing. Definitely, it invites more of our readers and the community to the library. It's just an invitation. But the library has to be in a physical space with open shelves, with excellent standard numbers of books, which we of course talks about the IFLA standard, but then of course community context we can do, and we can always strive and aspire to be that, and a trained, well-paid librarian, which we need in a library. And the well-paid, trained librarian, who is the one who will take the library to the people. In my practice or in our network, we always say that people will not come to the library. Library has to go to people. And this is where we will invite everyone. So what you asked about the pop-up library, it's an invitation. The little free libraries are invitation to the standard library which we do. And it's working well, of course. And it helps to engage with the larger community through which they get a way to get entry to the library, and we carry on.
Mridula, the community library
ideas that have been coded, and then reading allows you to decode those ideas. So like ideas from thousands of years ago, ideas in like Manusmriti, ideas in Plato, revolutionary ideas, Marxism, all kinds of ideas require people to not just sit by themselves and read in isolation. We often want to do that. But most of the time, when we encounter a really great idea, we want to turn to the person next to us and say, read this, it's so good. Or you see someone reading something disastrous and you want to warn them, bekar hai, mat padho. So it matters that a library has that physical space, because then it can create programs where people have conversations. That keeps the idea alive which reading alone cannot. So, as people, we need other people. And ideas need people, and people need ideas, and then people need people to have ideas that they then share. So libraries, again, are where all of the above happens. Let's make it free so more people can come in and do that. I do want to say one thing about an earlier question about who will pay. I mean, इतने हम free के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, तो पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? And I agree with you कि लोग ही उसका cost चुकाएंगे. We, the people who want, a society of equality, liberty, and fraternity. I love fraternity. We, the people, will pay for our free libraries. We'll pay for it because we pay for lots of things. We pay for the road. I don't think most of the time we pay for the road. I mean, sometimes there's a toll, like a bookshop might cost, but mostly we use the road because we pay for it already. So let's tax ourselves. Those who have more give more, and let's have free libraries.
Your free library network in India advocates for free libraries that go beyond conventional boundaries, embodying anti-caste, gender, disability, inclusivity. So Rituparna, just continuing with you, what unique contributions can individual libraries make to enhance this anti-caste, gender-inclusive dimension of this collaborative library network?
Thank you, Asad, for bringing those words, anti-caste, who talks against patriarchy, who talks about breaking the barriers of religion, class, geography, ability. If you'll talk about the individual library, how it is contributing to the network, the individual libraries are setting up a model of library which is successful and which is working. These individual libraries are contributing against the narrative that India do not want to read, or the reading culture is dying. No, it's not about that. All our library within the network, they are proving right that people want to read. The community whom they serve, all the members, 200 plus members within our network, everyone wants to read, and they want free access to books. So what I believe and what I feel, it's that contribution against the narrative that reading is dying, nobody wants to read. No, people are hungry for books. People are hungry for reading. People are hungry for reading and discussing and asking questions. And we are afraid to not make it accessible. Because if we are giving the power of reading to someone, they will think more, they will ask more questions. And we do not want our community, our people, to ask questions. And this is why we are creating this narrative that people do not want to read. I'm telling you here, standing in this literary festival, people want to read. And this is why you are organizing this festival also, to take forward the literature.
So can we move on to asking the audience if they want to ask a question? Anybody? Guys, are there mics? Or you want my mic? There's a gentleman with his hand up there. Guys, we don't have too much time, so 3 questions, tops. Keep it short.
Hi, I wanted to know, is there a provision to fund libraries under CSR? And is anybody doing that? And how effective and how legal and possible is it?
There is CSR has many, the laws have outlined a number of areas. Libraries do fall in that. We do get CSR funds. This panel was constituted through CSR funding from the JCB Foundation, which was mentioned in the introduction. However, I go back to my point that the people need people-funded public libraries that are open to everyone. And CSR, as well-meaning as it can be, will never have the resources that the people have. So we have to create what doesn't exist. CSR is doing all right.
Yes, CSR funding is possible even, for community libraries, of course, it's there. But library of our type also got a lot of CSR funding for converting legacy records for open and public access. We did get a lot of funding for that.
Sir?
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. How do citizens and activists engage with the Indian state to provide free libraries to all Indian citizens, and how do we make access to libraries a political issue in our country?
Simple fact that we need a free public library system. For that, we need people's national policy on free library and ensuring fund from government. That's it. Through that, we can make library accessible to everyone and free library.
The gentleman in front.
Hi, yeah. Thank you for giving me. Hi, my question to you, Mridula. You mentioned that in Kerala there is a movement that people are mobilizing and having public libraries. I want to know if you have any experience in, because there is a huge political will which is required, especially if you want a communitarian libraries and which require a physical space, like I mentioned. So even in Kerala, I remember reading that it is the public representatives who are taking these initiatives, and they're having these chai addas where they're inviting the people of their ward and their constituencies to come and,
Keep the question short.
So there was a people's movement in Kerala, and so there's so many great things about Kerala. People in Kerala read because there's a public library movement, public library system there. It's beautifully run. It's needs to improve by becoming free. How did that come about is another great lesson from Kerala that did not come about by itself, and it did not come about because political leadership envisioned it. It came about because ground level, grassroots, people's movement generated it. It actually started from the there's a 200-year history there, but let's say about 100 years ago, a whole series of conferences and so on. The literacy movement in Kerala, which is celebrated in India, because we tend in India to favor literacy over reading, the two things are actually slightly different, profoundly different. Reading is thinking. Literacy is sometimes just a precursor to studying, and then it stops there, or even just stops at signing on the dotted line for things other people have asked you to sign. But the literacy movement in Kerala was preceded by the library movement. How do you become literate if you don't have books? So first the books. Please don't ask people to earn them by knowing how to read, or by reading, or by wanting to read, or by asking to read. First provide the books. But first we'll have to have people create a movement for it. So yeah, Kerala did that.
You want to add? Or there's one last question. Just be brief, and then we're going to wrap up.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to ask one question. There is one very strong point that I think I just want to put light on that. A lot of people in India are not able to read. They don't know how to, read. Like there is like Sudhamurthy was here. There was a chapter where she was trying to teach her grandmother how to read. So a lot of people in India still are not able to read.
Can you keep the question short, my friend?
I just want to put light on the fact that people. There are people who can't read.
So when we have a library movement, which they had in Kerala, then they had 100% literacy in Kerala. First you provide the free books, then the people will read. And I'm not actually being argumentative with you, it's just time is so short. So literacy depends on more than an education system. If you learn to read and then you don't keep reading, you actually lose literacy. That's a scientific fact. It's a historic fact. So if you have libraries, people will leave school when school is done. Some leave in third class. And then they become 45 years old and they have forgotten how to read. They come to our library and they learn to read.
Usha, your closing comment? Just everyone briefly.
I would like to add to that. There are initiatives. We talked about Kerala. We talk about Maharashtra. They are creating audio books. Somebody reads and records, and people who cannot read and write, they listen to that. That's one initiative. So we have to do hand-holding there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.